Hey guys, tonight we begin in a place where time is measured not in hours, but in hunger pangs. You're not in a bed. You're not even in something that could charitably be called a bed. You're curled on a pile of straw, stuffed into a creaking, drafty hut with walls made of wattle, daub, and a fierce commitment to letting the wind through. The air smells faintly of wet sheep, smoky ash, and last week's cabbage. Welcome to the 14th century. Outside, a rooster crows like it's paid to be irritating, and the muffled grumbling of neighbours reminds you that it's somehow morning. The sun hasn't quite made an appearance, but your day begins anyway. You stretch, or attempt to, but your joints ache like they were forged from damp wood. Your back is stiff, your neck has straw poking into it, and your feet, cold, perpetually, eternally cold. There's no fire going yet, and the frost creeping across the inside of the wooden slats is proof. Someone shuttles past your spot and nearly steps on your hand. They mutter a half-hearted apology in Middle English. You don't catch the words, but the tone is unmistakably, deal with it. A chicken hops across the threshold, pecks once at your blanket, and waddles off. You don't even flinch. Your home, if we dare call it that, is a single-room hovel shared with 4 other people, 1 goat, a smattering of chickens, and several uninvited rodents. The walls are lumpy. The floor is mud. The roof leaks just enough to keep you humble. And yet, this is your space. Your little rectangle of straw and bone-deep fatigue. You shift slightly and find a rock beneath your hip. You've named it Edwin. He's been there for 3 winters. You rise, sort of, pushing yourself upright with a sigh that comes from somewhere between your soul and your frozen knees. Your tunic sticks to your skin with the clinging determination of old sweat and damp linen. It smells like you wore it yesterday, because you did, and the day before that, and the week before that. You might even be wearing someone else's at this point. Laundry is a concept you remember hearing about once, like dragons or leisure. You squint toward the door. It's barely a door, more of a wooden slab on hinges that thinks screaming is a personality trait. You nudge it open and immediately regret it. A blast of icy air slaps you across the face like an insult from a nobleman. You recoil, your toes already protesting the idea of touching frozen earth. A breeze whistles through the thatch, like a ghost rehearsing its lines. Outside, the world is brown, grey, and miserable. Mud clings to everything like a second skin. The ground is less a surface and more a suggestion. A chicken squawks at you, probably offended by your face. Somewhere, a child is already crying. You hear a distant clanging, someone starting on the morning's endless labour. But you're not there yet. You are spiritually horizontal. You stumble over to the hearth, hoping for warmth. You get embers. Someone forgot to stoke the fire. You blow on the coals, coaxing them like a tired lover. A few sparks reward you, and you cradle your hands near the pitiful heat, thankful for even the illusion of comfort. Your breath curls in the cold air like a ghost, still deciding if it wants to haunt this life or the next. Breakfast is still a rumour. Your stomach growls a low warning, like a dog about to snap. You think longingly of bread, but you haven't seen a crust in days. Your dreams lately have been full of turnips. Glorious, oversized, buttery turnips. You're starting to develop a relationship with one that appeared in your dreams last night. Her name was Marjorie. She was majestic. You almost proposed. Back inside, the others are stirring. Your neighbour coughs, once, twice, 3 times, and you wince. Not because of the noise, because you know what that cough might mean. The plague may be miles away, or it may not. No one ever knows for sure. One day you're planting peas, the next you're being buried with them. Someone mutters a prayer, someone else mutters something less holy. You find your boots, if you can call them that. They're bits of leather tied with string, soggy from yesterday's slog through the fields. You slide them on anyway, stuffing them with straw to pretend they still work. They squelch in protest. You mutter something rude under your breath and receive a disapproving glance from an old woman in the corner. She's the village herbalist, possibly, or a witch, also possibly. She once spat into a bowl and called it medicine. It worked, you think. You rub your face with stiff fingers, trying to scrub off sleep and whatever bug crawled across your cheek during the night. A cold drop of water falls from the rafters and lands on your scalp. You close your eyes. Deep breath. This is fine. Everything itches. Everything aches. But this is your version of a routine. This is your life now. Mornings that feel like trials. Air that bites. Clothes that don't dry. And a world that's both too loud and too quiet. You are awake. You are hungry. And you are still, somehow, here. You're still shivering from your heroic duel with a puddle and a goat, but there's no time to dwell on the embarrassment. In the Viking world, the day starts early and moves with the slow, grinding determination of people who've never once hit a snooze button. Around you, the longhouse stirs, snorts, coughs, yawns, the occasional goat bleat, and the chaos of the morning begins. First comes hygiene, or at least something pretending to be it. You kneel beside a warped wooden basin near the hearth, where a young woman is splashing tepid water on her face and muttering something about spirits in the soapwort. The water's not exactly clean. In fact, it's already grey. Communal, of course. You dip your fingers in anyway. You've stopped dreaming of cleanliness. Now you just hope for less grime than yesterday. The water is cold and smells vaguely of boiled herbs and something else, possibly feet. Still, you splash it on your face and instantly regret it. The shock wakes you faster than any coffee ever could. If coffee existed here, it doesn't. Just watery ale and stronger regrets. A hand suddenly appears in front of you, offering a comb. Bone-handled, lightly carved with swirling Norse patterns. You take it reverently, like it's a sacred artifact. And to them, it might as well be. Vikings were obsessed with grooming. One of the few facts about their daily lives that makes it into every archaeological dig. Combs are found in graves. Warriors were known to comb their beards in the middle of arguments. Clean hair? A matter of pride. You shuffle to a quieter corner of the longhouse, squatting beside a polished bronze platter, hanging from a beam. It serves as your mirror. The reflection isn't kind. Your hair resembles a nest in the aftermath of a windstorm. You start combing. Each tug feels like diplomacy with your scalp. That's when you notice the man watching you. He has one thick eyebrow and a face shaped by wind, salt, and disapproval. "Comb with purpose," he growls, and walks off. You are unsure if you've passed a test or failed a sacred rite. Historians still argue whether Viking grooming rituals were about hygiene or honour, or if it was just the only thing they could control in a world dominated by famine, disease, and sudden axe-related scheduling changes. Whatever the reason, you feel marginally more human. Then breakfast arrives, unceremoniously. You're handed a clay bowl containing oat gruel. It's beige. That's all that can be said for it. You taste it. Bland. With a sour note, like someone once whispered the word fruit near it. You find a chunk at the bottom. It might be meat. It might be fungus. It might be a small pebble. You do not investigate further. Across the hearth, a boy drops his bowl. The sound of clay on packed dirt is immediately followed by a swift smack from an older cousin, and then a sharper scolding from a nearby grandmother. The bowl survives. The boy's pride does not. A gust of cold air sweeps in, dragging along 3 villagers who've clearly been outside already. Their boots squish. Their faces glow with that ruddy, "I've been yelling at livestock since before sunrise" look. One of them carries a dead fish under his arm like a loaf of bread. No one asks. No one comments. Even the goat gives it a passing glance and resumes chewing a piece of rope. You attempt to rise with dignity, but your foot's asleep. You hobble to your feet like a wounded duck, grab at a beam for support, and lock eyes with a child who immediately begins giggling. You try to smile back. It does not land well. Time to get dressed. Someone tosses you a tunic, a coarse wool one, dyed a green that was probably vibrant once, in another lifetime. It smells like nettles, which is better than the last one, which smelled like onions and despair. You pull it on. It scratches immediately. Itchiness is simply part of the fashion here. Trousers next. Loose in the thighs, tight around the calves, sagging in ways that defy gravity. You cinch them with a leather belt that's clearly on its last life. Then the cloak. Thick, damp, and heavy. It trails slightly behind you, like a reluctant dog. Your boots squelch as you step into them. Leather stretched over felt soles, stuffed with straw. You make eye contact with another villager, who simply nods in sympathy. A moment of understanding passes. You are both survivors of footwear. A bronze shield hangs by the door, polished to reflect firelight. You catch a glimpse of yourself. The cloak slouched over your shoulders, the lopsided belt, the hair attempting rebellion. You look like someone cosplaying as a Viking on a budget, but no one says anything. That makes it okay. Someone calls a version of your name and tosses you a linen cap. Winds up, they say. It's unclear whether they mean the weather or political tension. You nod, wisely. Then a man with a braid, so long it loops into his belt, walks over, sizes you up, and mutters, "He'll do." Doesn't feel like a compliment. He hands you a cloth-wrapped bundle. "Hang this near the door," he says. "Keep spirits out." You raise an eyebrow. "What if I want them in?" He stares at you blankly, then walks away. A dog limps past you. It looks older than the village itself. You reach down to pet it. It sneezes on your leg and moves on. You decide that counts as a blessing. You step back outside. This time, properly wrapped, booted, and blanketed in wool. The wind slaps you again, but less cruelly. Your breath puffs like smoke. The village is a patchwork of wood, smoke, and people muttering their way through chores. You follow the group toward what you hoped was a barn. It is not. It's more of a tool shed, and it smells of manure, fish, and destiny. There's no privacy here, no solitude. You belong to the collective now. You stir the oak pot. You feed the goat. You haul wood. Each task merges into the next with the slow rhythm of generations repeating themselves. You're assigned firewood duty. The elder woman in charge tells you to choose wisely. You grab 3 logs that seem dryish. She glances at them, shrugs and mutters, "Close enough." You take the win. The sun creeps up over the trees. It doesn't warm you much, but it brightens the mud. Your fingers tingle with thaw. You almost smile. Then someone shouts, "Chores!" And that smile evaporates like steam from the hearth. Your first real task of the day isn't heroic, but it is important. Hauling buckets of water from the stream to the longhouse. The stream is not far, maybe 200 paces, but the path to it is mud. Not metaphorical mud. Real, boot-sucking, calf-deep, soul-swallowing mud that sticks to everything and somehow smells like despair and onions. The buckets are wooden, the handles wrapped with rope that bites into your palms, and they slosh with every step. You manage not to spill too much, which earns you a nod from a passing man whose approval seems to be dispensed with the frequency of solar eclipses. At the stream, you lower the bucket into the icy water. It's so cold it bites your skin through the wood. You lift it, muscles straining, and begin your trudge back. Two kids dart past you barefoot, laughing, which makes you wonder if you've lost all toughness, or if they've lost all sensation in their toes. You're not sure which is more likely. Back at the longhouse, your water is used immediately. A clay pot is set over the hearth to boil it. Not for tea or coffee or anything comforting, just to soften more oats again. You've never craved a piece of fruit this badly in your life. Or cheese, or salt. The Middle Ages, you're learning, are profoundly low sodium. Outside, someone is fixing a fence. The hammering is uneven and musical in the way that only tired people can manage. A woman walks by carrying a basket of dried fish. Her face says she has seen things you would not survive. You nod respectfully. She ignores you. That feels about right. Then comes your least favourite part of the day, mucking the animal pen. If you've never had the pleasure, imagine using a flat wooden shovel to relocate large quantities of animal waste that has frozen solid in the night, but now thaws just enough to become disturbingly pliable. The smell is something. Not quite death. Not quite life. Somewhere in between. You do your duty without complaint, because everyone else is also doing something equally grim. And because the last person who complained got assigned pig duty for a week. No one wants pig duty. The pigs don't even want pig duty. A boy slips in the muck. He pops up laughing. He is immediately scolded by 3 elders, 2 goats, and possibly the pig itself. You admire the efficiency. When that's done, you're handed a dull knife and point it toward a pile of firewood. Your job? Split it. Not perfectly. Not even well. Just split it enough that it fits in the fire. You've never chopped wood before. You try. The log wobbles, the knife glances off, and a splinter flies directly into your eye. You yelp. Someone snorts. Another person offers you a strip of cloth, and what might be advice, though it's in Old Norse, and you only catch the words I, fool, and blessing. You thank them anyway. Eventually, you get the hang of it, sort of. You develop a technique. Hold the log steady. Swear under your breath. Swing like you're trying to end a curse. It works about 40% of the time. You call that success. By mid-morning, your tunic is damp with sweat. Your hands are full of splinters, and you smell like someone who lost a wrestling match with a goat and then fell in the river. You're not proud, but you are upright. And in Viking terms, that's basically winning. You pause for a moment and lean against the side of the longhouse. The wind has died down, and for a brief moment, there is peace. Smoke rises from chimneys. The chickens are not screaming. Even the goats are chewing in silence. You take a deep breath, and for the first time since waking up, you don't immediately regret it. Then someone calls your name again. You don't know who they are, but you respond like a soldier being summoned. You are handed a sack. It contains turnips. Of course it does. Your next job is simple. Deliver these turnips to the smithy. You don't know why the blacksmith needs turnips. You don't ask. You just walk. The smithy is on the edge of the village, a squat wooden structure, with smoke pouring out like it's offended by the sky. Inside, the heat is immediate and aggressive. The blacksmith is a wall of muscle and soot, who grunts in acknowledgement when you arrive. He takes the turnips like they're a normal thing to receive, then tosses you a misshapen horseshoe. "Good enough," he says. You're not sure if it's a compliment. On your way back, you spot a group gathered near the well. They're laughing, quietly but genuinely. You drift closer and catch the end of a story involving a chicken, a bucket, and a very confused priest. You don't understand half of it, but you laugh anyway. It's infectious. For a few moments, the cold, the dirt, and the aching muscles fade away. You're just part of the village. No one mocks your boots. No one questions your place. You exist here, and it's enough. Lunch is more of the same, gruel with a hint of onion. Someone adds a slice of dried apple, and it's treated like a royal feast. You chew slowly, savouring the taste of not just oats. A dog sits beside you, watching every bite. You share the last spoonful. He licks your hand in thanks. You feel honoured. The sun is now overhead, pale but persistent. Your chores are done for the moment. You are told to rest. You don't argue. You find a patch of grass that's not too damp and sit. Not recline, not lounge, just sit. Your bones ache. Your eyelids droop. You hear wind in the trees and firewood being chopped. Someone is humming a tune without words. The air is still. You don't sleep, but for a few moments, you forget you're tired. And that, in this time and place, might be the closest thing to luxury. Afternoon begins not with a bell or a break, but with a quiet return to movement. There are no schedules in the Viking village, just patterns, repetitions passed down through memory and muscle. And as the sun leans westward, the rhythm changes. It's time to tend the fields. You're handed a crude wooden rake and pointed toward the far edge of a frost-hardened patch of land. It's not a field like you'd imagine. No neat rows, no tractors humming, no plaid-shirted farmers tipping their caps. It's more of a bumpy meadow, interrupted by rocks, tufts of wild grass, and one very confused chicken. Your job? Loosen the soil, chase off birds, and pretend spring is coming. You trudge out beside 3 others, none of whom speak much. You're beginning to understand why. It's not that they're unfriendly, it's that every word costs energy, and no one here has any to spare. The wind picks up again. Your cloak flaps behind you like a tired banner. As you work the soil, your rake snags on something. You kneel, dig a little with your hands, and find a strange root. It's twisted like a corkscrew and smells faintly of mustard. You hold it up to the nearest woman. "Eat it," she says, then turns back to raking. You tuck it in your belt, just in case. There's no supervisor, no foreman, no spreadsheet to check off, but everyone knows what to do. The older man beside you hums a droning tune under his breath. You try to hum along. It doesn't match, but he doesn't stop you. After an hour, someone calls out. It's a child, maybe 6 or 7, running barefoot down the ridge. "Crows!" he shouts, pointing. Everyone tenses, not because crows are rare, but because they're hungry and clever. Crows mean seeds will disappear and food will vanish before it even begins. The woman nearest you picks up a slingshot made of deer bone and pockets of pebbles. She takes aim, misses. The crows scatter. Everyone cheers like she won anyway. She smiles. She did. You are sent to gather firewood again, this time from the edge of the woods. The trees stretch into a dense wall of shadow and bark. They look beautiful from afar. Up close, they're tangled, dripping, and full of noises you can't identify. You're given a walking stick and a burlap sack. If you see mushrooms, a man tells you, ask them first. You pause. Ask them? He nods. Some don't want to be eaten. You laugh. He doesn't. You nod and leave. The woods are colder, quieter. Your boots sink into moss. Branches creak above you. Somewhere, something rustles, and you pretend not to hear it. You gather fallen branches, bits of bark, and a handful of mushrooms that don't object too strongly. One glows faintly in the shade. You leave that one alone. Halfway back, you find a stone with strange carvings, lines that cross like latticework. You touch it and feel warmth. Not heat, just the absence of cold. It might be sacred, it might be nothing. You say thank you and move on. When you return, you're welcomed not with applause, but with space. Someone scoots over on the log near the hearth. They don't say a word, but they let you sit. You place your bundle down, and the fire is fed. Smoke curls up like a whisper. You're handed a cup of warm ale, sour, weak, and wonderful. You drink it slowly, feeling it settle in your chest like a small, sleepy bear. The old woman with the crow on her shoulder is muttering over a pot of herbs. She's mixing something. No one interrupts. You watch as she pinches dried leaves into the brew, then taps the rim 3 times. The crow caws once, and she nods. A man arrives with a cut on his hand. She dabs it with the herbal mush. He winces. She spits once in the dirt and tells him to be less stupid. He bows in thanks. This, apparently, is standard care. The village is quieter now. The wind has faded, replaced by the low murmur of chores being completed. A pig grunts somewhere behind you. A woman sings a lullaby to a baby in a sling, swaying as she sweeps. The tune is haunting. You don't understand the words, but you feel the weight of them. Someone sits beside you. It's the one-eyebrow man. He doesn't speak, just watches the fire. After a minute, he says, "You don't belong here." You nod. "I know." He shrugs. "You're doing fine." It's the nicest thing anyone has said to you all day. Later, a bell is rung. Not a church bell, but a rusted iron triangle. It means supper is near. People gather. You're handed a bowl of stew that smells like rutabaga and resolve. You eat in silence, shoulder to shoulder with the villagers. No ceremony, no announcements, just food, fire, and company. Afterward, someone begins to tell a story. It's in Norse, so you only catch fragments, but you understand the laughter, the pauses, the hush that falls over the room when the tale turns dark. It's about a wolf, or a storm, or maybe both. You lose the plot, but not the feeling. Night falls fully now. The air thickens with cold. The fire burns low. People drift off to their sleeping corners. You are given a blanket that smells of smoke and comfort. You lie down, not in a bed, but in a space that has been made ready. The last thing you hear before sleep is the voice of the storyteller, soft and distant, and still they endured. You believe him, and for once you do not dream of turnips. You wake in darkness again, but this time it's not morning. It's the kind of cold, silent hour that has no name, the soft breath between yesterday and today. The fire has burned low. Only embers remain, glowing faintly beneath a shell of ash. Around you, the longhouse sleeps. You hear the slow rustle of cloaks, a gentle snore, the shift of someone scratching beneath a blanket, and somewhere beyond the wooden walls, wind whispers across the roof, like a story being told to the night itself. You rise quietly, not because you're expected to, but because your body aches too much to stay still. Your joints complain, your back pops like a frozen branch, and your toes, well, they left hours ago and haven't returned. You wrap your cloak tighter, step carefully across the packed dirt floor, and reach for the water bucket. Frozen. You sigh through your teeth and move toward the door. You're not alone. An older man is already up, squatting near the fire, nursing a cup of something steaming. He nods, offers you a sip. It's bitter and dark, made from bark or roots or possibly despair. But it's warm, and that's enough. This is the midnight shift. Not official, but understood. Someone is always awake, always watching. Not because of fear, but because something in this world never quite sleeps. There are animals to check, embers to coax, night sounds to listen for. You step outside into the freezing dark. The village is cloaked in mist. The moon hangs low, swollen, casting pale light across the rooftops. Snow has begun to fall, quiet and slow, like ash from a dream that never finished burning. You walk the perimeter of the longhouse, your boots crunching softly over the frozen earth. No one asked you to. You just feel like it's what you're meant to do. A dog trots up beside you, silent, watchful, old. The same one from yesterday, or its twin. You don't ask. You just walk together. You check the pens. The animals shift in their sleep. One goat eyes you suspiciously. Another burps. You nod respectfully and move on. At the edge of the village stands the old oak tree. Its trunk is massive, split in the middle like the pages of a forgotten book. You pause beneath its branches. There are bones buried here, not people, tools, offerings, things left behind for gods no one quite remembers. You place a small stone at the base. You don't know why, but it feels right. Behind you, The longhouse exhales, smoke from the chimney curling into the stars. The village holds its breath and breathes again. You return inside, shaking off the frost, toes numb, but soul strangely steady. The old man near the fire hasn't moved. He hands you a chunk of dried meat. You chew in silence. He says, "Dreams get louder in winter." You nod. He's not wrong. Later, as the others begin to stir, you pretend to be asleep again. Just for a moment. Just to hear what the world sounds like when it forgets you're listening. A baby cries. A kettle clinks. Someone curses softly as they stub a toe. The rhythm of the day returns, like a song picked up mid-note. You join the morning without fanfare. Another bowl of gruel, another pair of boots to wrangle. The same cloak, slightly damper. But something is different today. Subtle, invisible, but there. A new voice in the air. The village elder. A woman with hair like spider silk and a voice like distant thunder calls a meeting. People gather near the hearth. The topic, storm signs. Snow this early means hunger later. The stores will need checking. Hunting parties arranged. No panic, just preparation. You are not part of this meeting. Not really. But no one tells you to leave. The group disperses, and you're pulled aside by a younger woman with a bow slung across her back. "You're coming," she says. "Where?" You nod, because what else can you do? You're handed a satchel of dried meat, a spare wool wrap, and a pair of leather gloves that almost fit. The bow you carry is older than you. The arrows are hand-fletched. The tips gleam like they remember what they're for. The forest is colder than before. Snow drapes over the branches. Your breath fogs and fades. You walk in silence, each footstep careful, respectful. The others move like ghosts, quiet, purposeful, sharp-eyed. You try to match them. Mostly, you fail. You spot deer tracks. You follow them. You lose them. Then you find them again. Hours pass like minutes, or maybe the other way round. Time has no weight here, just weather. Eventually the lead hunter raises her hand. Everyone stops. You see it, a shape moving among the trees. Brown fur, lean legs, delicate ears twitching in the wind. You hold your breath. The arrow flies, not yours, hers. It lands true. The deer falls, not fast, not slow, just ends. There is no cheering, no whooping, just movement. Quick, practiced, reverent. The animal is cleaned, bundled, carried. A small prayer is spoken, not for the hunt, but for the hunger it will ease. On the way back, no one speaks. You watch your breath rise in little clouds and think, this is not survival. This is something older, deeper, a rhythm that never asked for your permission. When you return, the village is already preparing for night. You help without being told, stacking kindling, fetching cloth, holding the bundle of meat as it's cleaned and cooked. The smell is heavy, earthy, real. When the meal is served, you eat slowly, silently. The elder speaks again, a story this time, of wolves in winter, of a boy who turned into a bear, of a house that stood after the sea tried to steal it. You don't understand every word, but you feel the shape of the story. The rise, the fall, the echo. You lie down once more in your corner. The fire is low. The longhouse breathes, and just before sleep takes you, you realize something. You stopped missing your mattress. You miss the silence less. You miss nothing at all. And that somehow is the strangest thing yet. Morning arrives differently this time. Not with a roar or a rattle, but with stillness. A kind of hush settles over the village, as if the snow outside has blanketed even the sound of thought. You wake slowly, unsure at first where you are, then fully aware, and surprisingly, not disappointed. Your body aches less today, or maybe you've grown used to the pain. You sit up and glance around. The longhouse is quiet. Most people still bundled in their cloaks and straw. The fire is aglow, reduced but not out. The warmth lingers like a memory. You step outside without being asked. The air is crisp, fresh in that sharp way that pinches your nose and makes you blink. The world is white now. Thick snow carpets the ground, softening the hard lines of huts and fences. The sky is pale blue, streaked with long, stretched-out clouds. Your breath rises in slow spirals. You are not alone. A group is already gathering, standing in a loose circle near the central fire pit outside. Today is bath day. Now, don't misunderstand. This is not a spa day. This is not warm towels and scented oils. This is a ritual, a task that must be done, not enjoyed. A large wooden tub is filled with water, heated by stones pulled from the fire. Birch branches lie bundled nearby. Someone has carved a simple bench from a tree trunk. There is no privacy, no curtain, no shame, just steam, sweat, and the attempt to be cleaner than yesterday. You are handed a wooden scoop. The water is hot, shockingly so. You pour it over your shoulders and let it trail down your back. It stings, and then it soothes. Others do the same, murmuring quiet words to themselves. The birch branches are used not for scrubbing, but for thwacking, softly, rhythmically, meant to improve circulation and drive out spirits. A woman sings while she bathes, a low, winding melody with no clear beginning or end. It weaves between steam and breath, grounding the group in something older than memory. You hum along. You don't know the tune, but it doesn't matter. It holds you anyway. Afterward, you feel reborn. Not refreshed exactly, but stripped of the layer of dirt and doubt you hadn't noticed building. You dry off with rough linen, and pull on your slightly less damp tunic. The cold bites again, but it feels different now. Sharper. Yes, but also cleaner. With the snow now firm beneath your feet, you help shovel paths between the buildings. Not with metal shovels, those are rare. Just wide, flat boards, strapped to sticks. The snow is pushed aside rather than lifted, and every movement is a fight against resistance. But when you look back at the trail you've cleared, a strange pride flutters in your chest. Someone tosses you a handful of dried berries. Your reward. They taste tart and sharp, like winter trying to pretend it's spring. The afternoon is devoted to mending. Clothes, mostly. Tunic seams that have unraveled, cloaks torn by brambles, boots whose soles have given up. You sit near the hearth with a group of women and 2 men, all bent over work with quiet focus. You're given a needle bone and a strip of leather. Your job, patch your own boot. You try. You fail. You try again. Eventually, you produce something that resembles repair. One of the women pats your shoulder. It feels like applause. There's comfort in the rhythm of stitching. In the shared silence, someone hums. Someone else tells a short tale about a rooster who stole a bishop's ring. You don't catch all the details, but the punchline involves a very confused donkey and a puddle of honey. It earns a laugh from the group, and even you chuckle. It feels good. Normal. Like you've been here for longer than you have. Later, the elder summons you again, not with words, just a glance and a gesture. You follow her to the edge of the woods, where a cluster of stones sits half buried in snow. She kneels, brushes them clean, and reveals symbols carved deep into their surfaces. These, she says softly, are memories. You nod, unsure if she means the stones themselves or what they mark. She places a hand on your chest. You carry some too. You want to ask what she means, but she's already walking away. You remain there a moment longer. Snow falls softly on your shoulders. You kneel, place your hand on the stones, and feel nothing. Then something. A warmth. A hum. A deep, patient silence that seems to recognize you. Back in the longhouse, preparations for a feast are underway. A celebration of sorts. No specific reason. Just a good hunt. Enough preserved meat, and the need to remind each other that not every day is only for survival. You help stoke the fire. Place stones near the edge to warm. Someone brings in a fresh bundle of herbs. Others bring small offerings. A necklace, a comb, a carved wooden spoon. Not to be eaten, not to be used, just displayed. Proof of craft, of time well spent. The meal is not fancy, but it's different. Roasted meat instead of gruel. A bit of dried fruit in the stew. Honey in the drink. A luxury. People smile more, talk louder, laugh easily. As the sun sets, the music begins. Simple instruments. A drum, a bone flute. Hands clapping in rhythm. A girl with wild braids sings a tune that loops and turns like a river finding its way. You sway along, caught in the current. They invite you to dance. You hesitate. Then you do. You are clumsy. Your foot catches a stool. Someone laughs, but it's not cruel. You laugh too. You try again. And suddenly, you're not thinking about your boots, or your posture, or whether you belong. You're just moving. Just being. Later, after the music fades, and the hearth returns to quiet crackling, you sit by the fire, cloak wrapped tight, eyes half closed. Someone sits beside you, says nothing, hands you a carved wooden ring. Made it from driftwood, they explain. It's lucky. You don't ask why. You just thank them. And as sleep pulls you down again, you realize you're not counting days anymore. You're just living them. 2. By now, the rhythm of the village has etched itself into your bones. Wake with the cold. Move with the chores. Sleep under the quiet weight of night. You no longer flinch when your feet touch the frozen ground. You don't hesitate when someone tosses you a bundle of straw or gestures toward a broken fence. You still don't understand every word, but you've learned the language of motion, of nods, shrugs, glances. And this morning, all of those point you toward the woods. You're joining the foraging party. Not for meat, but for greens, roots and bark. Anything that might stretch a meal or soothe a cough. The snow has receded just enough to expose patches of lichen and clusters of winter herbs. You follow 2 women and a younger boy into the tree line. Each carries a satchel and a curved knife. You're handed a small wooden spade and a wool bag. Dig shallow, someone says. Listen for roots. The forest feels quieter than usual. Snow drips steadily from the pine branches. The ground is wet, not frozen. You squat beside a tree, scrape gently at the soil, and reveal something pale and stringy. The woman beside you nods. Angelica root, she murmurs. Good for belly and breath. You keep digging. You find more. Nettles, bitter leaves. Something that smells like mint mixed with mud. Every discovery is met with a subtle response. A nod, a soft hum, a brief lesson. Even the bark peeled from a tree has purpose. Boiled for tea, ground into powder, added to poultices. At one point, the boy slips on a mossy rock and lands with a splash in a shallow creek. The older woman sighs, pulls him up, and wrings out his sleeves. Again, she asks. He grins sheepishly. She hands him a strip of dried apple. The lesson: forgiveness comes with fibre, barely visible in the slanting light. The others don't stop. You linger. There's no writing, just the shape. A gateway, maybe, or a grave. You place your hand on the largest stone. It's warm, impossibly. Then you follow the group. Back in the village, smoke rises from chimneys. The longhouse smells of broth and damp wool. You return your satchel, now half full of bitter and pungent things, to the herbalist's corner. She doesn't say thank you. She just opens the bag, sniffs, and grunts in approval. That, you've learned, is high praise. This afternoon, you're sent to help make soap. You didn't know Vikings made soap. You imagined dirt, always. But here it is, fat, ash and herbs melted together in a clay pot. Stirred with a stick as long as your forearm, the mixture is poured into shallow wooden molds. It will harden over several days. You ask what the herbs are for. Scent, she says, then adds, and lice. You make a mental note not to borrow anyone's hat. In the evening, there's talk of wolves nearby. Tracks found by the goat pen. No panic, just preparation. A few men sharpen spears and inspect the fence lines. You're asked to stand watch for an hour after dusk. Not alone, just present. You agree, as the sun dips low, painting the sky with strokes of silver and orange. You take your post near the edge of the village. The snow crunches beneath your boots. Your cloak holds the wind at bay, and beside you stands the one-eyebrowed man. His arms crossed, his eyes scanning the tree line. For a while, neither of you speaks. Then he mutters, "First winter's the hardest." You nod. "Will there be a second?" He shrugs. "Depends who you ask. Or how well you dodge goats." It's almost a joke. You let yourself smile. Eventually you're relieved by two others. You return to the longhouse, where warmth clings to every beam. Dinner is plain, stew again, but someone's added wild garlic. A miracle. After the meal, there's music. A carved flute. Two wooden spoons tapped in rhythm. A song that loops and lilts like a stream under ice. A girl sings verses in Old Norse, her voice soft and unwavering. You don't understand a word, but the tune settles behind your ribs like memory. You sit beside the fire, legs outstretched, back pressed to a post. Someone offers you a handful of roasted nuts. You share half with the dog, who thanks you with a sigh and a thump at his tail. And just before the fire dims, the elder stands. She lifts a bone-carved cup and speaks a few words. Then everyone echoes the last phrase. You don't repeat it, but you listen. It sounds like, "We are still here." You lie down on your straw mat, wrap your cloak around your shoulders, and close your eyes. Tomorrow will come, same as today. And somehow, that feels like hope. Later that night, after the music fades, and most have drifted to sleep, you remain awake, staring at the rafters above. The moon is high now, silver and cold. The village is silent, save for the soft snore of the pig in its pen and the whisper of branches swaying in the wind. You walk slowly past the longhouse, past the blacksmith's darkened forge, and out to the edge of the woods. You don't go in, just stand at the threshold, watching your breath fog in the moonlight. You remember how strange this place felt that first morning, how every smell was foreign, every task overwhelming. Now the smoke smells like supper. The mud feels like progress. Even the silence has softened. Behind you, The longhouse glows faintly through the wooden slats. You think of the faces inside. Stern, kind, tired, enduring. They don't speak much, but they've taught you more than any lecture ever could. How to stay warm with nothing. How to share without asking. How to keep living even when the days blur into each other. You find a stone near the path and sit. Just for a moment, just to let the cold wrap around you and prove that you can take it. And when you finally rise and head back inside, you do so slowly. Not because you're weak or weary, but because, for the first time, you're not in a hurry to escape this place. You are part of it now, and it, somehow, is part of you. The next morning arrives with a strange clarity. The air is cold but still. No biting wind, no snowfall. Just a pale sun inching over the trees, like it's peeking in to see who's awake. You rise before the others, not from restlessness, but from rhythm. Your body seems to know what needs doing, even before your mind catches up. You step outside to a world dusted in frost. The paths you shoveled 2 days ago are crisp, edged in white. Your breath curls out ahead of you like a lazy scout. Far off, you hear the soft bray of the donkey. Closer still, the flap of the longhouse door as someone else stirs. Today, you've been asked to help with dyeing wool, a task you know nothing about, but approach like you would a new melody, slowly, by ear. The weaver welcomes you with a raised brow and a nod. She's a stern woman, wrapped in layers of her own handiwork, and she moves like someone used to being imitated. She teaches by doing, not explaining. Together you heat large clay pots over a fire, filled with water and bundles of strange plants. Weld for yellow, madder root for red, woad for that deep greyish blue that stains fingers like bruises. The smell is earthy, sharp and slightly sour. As the colours bloom into the water, the weaver hums. It's not a song really, more like a rhythm to work by. You hum too, and she doesn't stop you. Wool is soaked, twisted, lifted, cooled. You hang strands on wooden racks, watching them drip into the dirt below. Some fibres bleed colour quickly, others take their time, reluctant. It's a slow task, meditative. You think about how even fabric carries the story of its creation. Sunlight, soil, hand, time. After several hours, your hands are stained with colour. Your arms ache from stirring, and your nose is full of smoke. Still, you feel calm. The repetition has a way of smoothing your thoughts. When the last bundles are hung to dry, the weaver places a soft hand on your shoulder. "Not bad," she says. And from her, that may as well be a standing ovation. That afternoon, the hunter with pine-smelling hair finds you near the well. He jerks his head toward the trees. "Come." You follow without question. This time, he teaches you how to set snares, not for large animals, but for rabbits and ground birds. He shows you where to walk, how to crouch, what to look for. You watch the way he reads the land, like a language. You crouch beside a set of brambles and mimic his movements, your fingers fumbling with the loop. He doesn't speak, just watches. Eventually, you get it right. He nods once, then walks on. You smile. It's becoming familiar, this quiet way of being seen. As you walk back, he finally says, "You're not soft anymore." Then he disappears into the trees. Back at the village, the elder is gathering people near the fire pit. No one rushes. Everyone seems to sense what this is. You join the circle, shoulder to shoulder, with men and women and children. The elder speaks of winter, of storing wisely, of watching the sky and noting the shifts in bird patterns. If the crows stay, we stay. If they vanish, we prepare. Then she speaks of memory, of the names no longer spoken aloud. One by one, small items are placed by the fire. A spoon, a scrap of ribbon, a worn leather pouch. No words accompany them. Just gestures. You don't know who the objects belong to. You don't need to. You feel the weight in your chest anyway. As the ritual closes, a boy near you leans against his mother, who rubs his back slowly. The fire crackles. The village exhales. Afterward, you help carry firewood to the elder's longhouse. Her hands tremble slightly now, but her voice never wavers. She thanks you with a nod and a warm piece of flatbread, freshly baked over coals. It's chewy, lightly sweet, and you eat it like it's a feast. As the sun begins to drop, the one-eyebrowed man calls you to help patch a fence post. You hold the timber while he hammers it into the frozen ground. With each blow, he grunts, then says, "Storm's coming." "How can you tell?" Goat sneezed. "She's always right." You believe him. That night, wind begins to rise, sharp and whistling. Snowflakes chase each other through the air, like embers in reverse. The longhouse tightens, furs pulled closer, bodies shifting nearer to the fire. Children huddle beneath thick cloaks. The storyteller begins again, this time recounting the tale of a lost warrior who followed a fox across a frozen sea and found the land of his ancestors. The words, though foreign, are familiar. You know the longing in the pauses. You recognize the ache behind the rhythm. After the story, you remain by the fire. The one-eyebrowed man sits beside you again. This time, he doesn't speak at first, just hands you a carved object. It's a whistle, made of bone, smooth and warm from his palm. "If you ever need to find your way back," he says, "blow this, loudly and badly." You smile. "Will someone come?" He shrugs. "Probably not, but it'll make you feel better." You keep the whistle. You don't ask why. Later, as the fire dims and snow buries the silence outside, you lie beneath your cloak, the whistle in your palm. Not because you need to use it, but because it's proof of something unspoken. And just before sleep takes you, you realize this place has stopped feeling temporary. It feels like part of your story now. You wake to the sound of scraping, metal against wood, slow and steady. It takes you a moment to remember where you are. The longhouse, the straw mat, the smell of smoke, sweat and snow, seeping in through the gaps in the wall. You push off your blanket and rise slowly, your muscles stiff, but familiar in their ache. The scraping belongs to the blacksmith, sharpening a blade just outside the door. It's still early. The sky hasn't decided whether it wants to be grey or blue. The frost on the windows clings like lace. You step outside, your boots crunching over last night's snow. The blacksmith doesn't greet you, but he hands you a piece of wood and a knife without looking. "Shave it smooth," he says. "It's for a sled runner." You sit beside him and begin carving. The wood is cold and stubborn, and the knife bites only when you hold it just right. You settle into the rhythm. Scrape, shift, breathe. The blacksmith hums a low tune as he works. The two of you say nothing more. When you're done, he inspects your piece, nods, and adds it to a pile of curved beams. The sled will be used for hauling supplies, maybe even a child or two when the snow gets deep. You feel oddly proud. After the morning meal, stew again, this time with tiny bits of something you dare not identify. You're sent to the river path. The snow's piled high now, and someone needs to check the net traps that were set beneath the ice. You're given a long pole, a pair of thick mittens, and a warning. Stay on the path. The ice shifts. The journey is slow. You walk behind a man with a limping gait and a girl who can't be more than 12. She carries a spear taller than herself and hums like she's walking to a festival. You envy her confidence. At the riverbank, you crouch near the hole cut into the ice. The trap is heavy, full of weeds and 2 silver fish still twitching. You haul it out with numb hands, your breath coming in short puffs. The man grins, toothless but bright. "Dinner," he says. You make 3 more stops, each trap holding either disappointment or delight. The girl laughs when a frog leaps out of one. "Lucky sign," she declares. You believe her. Back at the village, the sky has begun to spit flurries again. Small, fine flakes that swirl rather than fall. You help clean the fish, scaling, gutting, slicing. You try not to gag. You're getting better at it. One of the older women notices your clumsy knife work and swaps places with you. She hands you a broom made from tied twigs. "Sweep snow from thresholds," she says. Makes the luck stay in. You sweep. Door by door, you brush away the soft drifts. Some doors open and offer warmth. A smile, a nod, a hot stone to hold for a moment. Others remain closed, but you sweep them just the same. In the afternoon, the children gather. Not to play, exactly, but to prepare. A rite of sorts. They're given wooden shields and blunted sticks. They form rows, mimic marching, shout in unison. You stand nearby, watching as one older boy barks commands. It looks like a game, but the discipline is real. The one-eyebrowed man appears at your side. "Training," he says. "They'll need it. Always do." You nod. "Tharading." He looks at you, unreadable. "Or defending." Then adds, "Wolves raid too." That evening, a feast. Not a grand one, but different. The fish from earlier, cooked over flame. Laid out with dried greens and something baked from roots and flour. The longhouse fills with warmth, laughter, and steam. After the meal, the floor is cleared. Someone produces a drum made from stretched hide, and the girl with the spear begins to dance. Not graceful, but fierce. Sharp angles, stomping feet, wild braids flying. Others join her. Soon, the room moves as one. Thudding feet, clapping hands, shouted words in rhythm. You're pulled into the circle by a boy half your size. He laughs when you stumble, cheers when you recover. You spin once, twice, nearly fall, then catch yourself and laugh louder than you have in weeks. The drum stops suddenly. The room stills. The elder stands near the fire, holding a carved wooden stick. She lifts it, then lowers it into the flames. Everyone watches in silence as it blackens, then glows, then turns to ember. She speaks. Old year burned. New year begins. There's no cheer, just breath, stillness, and then a quiet hum begins, low and layered. A song of sorts, though no words. You join in. You don't know the melody, but somehow your voice fits. Later, the longhouse settles. You step outside again, alone this time. The snow has eased, replaced by the hush of a clear winter night. The moon is full and heavy. The air sparkles. You pass the animal pens, checking on the goats. One stares at you with what might be accusation. The pig snorts once, then goes back to sleep. You follow the well-worn path out past the last hut. The forest looms ahead, black and tall. You don't go in. You just stop at the edge, close your eyes and listen. Not for danger, just to remember what silence feels like. Eventually, you return. As you push open the longhouse door, a young girl is waiting with a carved token. It's a bear, small enough to sit in your palm. For luck, she says, and strength. You thank her. She shrugs like it's nothing. But to you, it's everything. You lie down with the bear in your hand, the scent of smoke in your hair, and the hush of the village resting gently over your bones. And before sleep takes you, you whisper one quiet promise. You'll remember this. All of it. Later that night, as most of the longhouse sleeps, and only the fire whispers in its low red glow, you sit up again. Sleep teases the edge of your thoughts, but something keeps you grounded in the present, like the stillness is asking to be noticed. You walk softly to the hearth, where the coals pulse like breathing stones. You stir them once, gently, watching the ashes swirl upward, like fleeting memories. One of the elders, barely visible in the shadows, speaks without opening her eyes. The gods listen best when we're not trying to speak. You don't reply, but you sit for a while longer, the carved bear resting in your lap, your thoughts drifting in time with the slow exhale of the fire. When you finally return to your mat, the quiet isn't empty. It's full of stories, of weight, of belonging. And this time, when you close your eyes, you don't dream of returning. You simply dream. You awaken to the scent of smoke and something sweet. Baked root, maybe. Honeyed, if the household is feeling generous. The longhouse is still dim, but brighter than usual. Snow has stopped falling, and a thin line of golden light seeps through the slaps of the wall, painting a warm stripe across the dirt floor. Outside, someone is singing a slow, breathy tune, almost like a lullaby, but heavier. You sit up, stretch your arms, and feel your joints protest. But less than before, you're adjusting. Or surrendering. Maybe both. By now, no one tells you what to do. There's no morning assignment, no barked orders or pointed gestures. You simply listen and act. You grab your cloak, still damp along the hem, and step outside. The village is quiet, muffled not by snow, but by a kind of winter calm. A peace that only comes after a storm. Smoke curls from chimneys in soft spirals. The wind is gone. Today is for repairs. At first, you assume this means fence posts or sled runners again. But it's bigger than that. Seasonal repairs. The sort done before everything thaws and everything breaks. You start with the roof that sags above the communal storehouse. You and 3 others form a chain, passing bundles of straw, mud-packed branches, and narrow tools shaped like flat spoons. It's not glamorous work, but it's rhythmic, predictable, comforting in its own way. You're paired with a woman named Solveig. Her sleeves are rolled high, her fingers wrapped in strips of leather to keep from bleeding. She doesn't speak much, just hums, a deep, steady sound that matches the pace of her hands. You always sing, you ask? She glances at you, only when it's falling apart. You don't ask if she means the roof or something else. The repairs take hours. You sweat beneath your wool layers. Your hands scratch against bark and ice. Once, you slip and nearly fall from the beams. Solveig grabs your arm, steadying you with the grip of a person who has done this too many times to let anyone fall. When the roof is patched, she nods it will work. You're steadier now, she says. You thank her. You mean it. In the afternoon, you're drawn to the weaving house, not to carry or fetch, but to sit. The elder there, a man with cloud-white hair and ink-stained hands, is finishing a ceremonial banner. Thin thread, dyed crimson. Loops through deer hide and linen in spiraling patterns. He invites you to watch. Every stitch is a marker, he says, for births, deaths, loss, gifts. Sometimes I forget which is which. You ask him how long he's been weaving. He grins. Since before I had teeth. Then adds, probably longer. He shows you how to pull the thread without tearing it, how to make the knots lie flat, how to let your hands think faster than your brain. You make one small stitch. It's crooked, too loose. He leans over and snips it away. Try again. You do. This time, the stitch holds. Outside, children play in the slush. Their laughter carries. Someone's goat chases them in a slow, stubborn trot. You hear a thud and a splash, followed by shrieks and shouting, and the unmistakable joy of being cold and alive. A small girl pokes her head in through the weaving house doorway. Can we make a flag too? She asks. The elder gestures to some scraps, only if you promise to tell the truth with it. She runs off cackling. Later, you find yourself sitting near the fire pit. It's mid-afternoon, but the light is fading fast. Winter days are stingy with their sunlight. The one-eyebrowed man joins you, carrying 2 wooden mugs. He passes one to you without speaking. You sip. It's warm and herbal, with a bitter tang. You grimace. He chuckles. Good for keeping the dark out. You ask, does the dark need keeping out? He shrugs. Sometimes, other times, we just drink and hope. As the light continues to drain from the sky, villagers begin placing small objects around the central fire. Stones, feathers, carved tokens, dried flowers, buttons, bits of bone. Offerings. Not to gods necessarily, but to time, to memory. You ask a woman setting down a woven bracelet, what's it for? She looks at you. For the year. For the parts we want to keep. That evening, a quiet ceremony begins. No fanfare. No grand speech. Just shared breath and the sound of a carved horn ringing out once, deep and long. Then silence. The elder speaks. Not loudly, but every word carries. This is the middle of it, she says. The cold has teeth, but so do we. We remember. We endure. We offer our thanks. And we do not waste. Everyone nods. A man tosses dried juniper into the fire. The smoke rises in pale blue spirals, fragrant and biting. The one-eyebrowed man adds a small, cracked knife. A child places a doll with one missing eye. When it's your turn, you hesitate. Then you reach into your cloak and remove a flat stone you picked up days ago from the edge of the forest. The one with strange warmth. The one shaped like a tooth. You place it gently beside the fire. No one asks what it means, but you feel their approval in the stillness. Afterward, the longhouse fills again with music. Softer this time, a stringed instrument plucked with calloused fingers, a voice singing a story of spring, though no flowers yet bloom. You eat stew again, but this time it tastes richer, spiced, infused with something more than ingredients. The child beside you offers half a boiled root. You accept without hesitation. The night grows late, and the fire burns low. Still, no one moves to sleep. The hush that follows celebration is different from the hush of fear. This one holds something sacred. You lie down, finally, your body aching in quiet ways, but your heart, it feels strong. The next morning arrives not with cold, but with damp. The snow has softened into slush, and the air carries a chill that clings to your skin like wet linen. You wake to the sound of dripping, steady, persistent. Meltwater trails down the beams of the longhouse roof, forming small puddles along the edge of the floor. Outside, winter is loosening its grip. Not gone, but withdrawing. The snowbanks have slumped. The paths you cleared are now darkened with mud. Your boots sink half a step with each stride. You're asked to help dig a trench, not for defense, not for water, but to redirect melt so it doesn't flood the storehouse. You work with a team of 5, each of you armed with wooden spades and shovels dulled by years of use. You strike earth that's part thawed, part frozen, and entirely uncooperative. Someone slips, someone curses, someone sings to distract themselves. You just dig. By midday, your cloak is soaked, your boots squelch, but the trench is done. You watch as the water begins to flow, slow but certain. The others nod in approval. One slaps your back. "Good trench," he says. "Ugly, but good." In the afternoon, you're sent to the edge of the forest with a pair of older women. They're collecting early signs of spring, small buds, shoots, anything that dares poke through the softened ground. One of them uses a curved bone knife to trim wild herbs. The other carries a reed basket. They speak in half sentences, fragments. Too early for mushrooms. This one survived frost. Not fox, dog. You pick carefully, following their gestures. A sprig here, a root there. Nothing too much, only what's needed. On the way back, you spot hoof prints, fresh, deep, angling west. You call them over. They examine the ground. "Elk," one says. "Or raiders," the other says. They both laugh, but only one keeps laughing. That evening, the longhouse is restless. Not with fear, but with anticipation. Someone saw birds on the lake. Someone else saw green beneath the snow. Children argue over whether they can stop wearing hats. The answer, universally, is no. The elder calls for a gathering, but this time not in words. She simply lights a fire outside, larger than usual, and stands beside it. One by one, people arrive. She tells a story, not one of wolves or winter or gods, but of bees. How they vanish when cold comes, how they huddle, how they return. "Like us," she says, "but with wings." A man brings out mead, dark and sharp. It's passed from hand to hand in a carved wooden cup. When it reaches you, the warmth of everyone who's held it lingers in the wood. You sip. It burns slightly, then settles. A boy plays a flute, 3 notes over and over. He fumbles, tries again. No one mocks him. Someone taps a bowl in time. Another joins on a drum. You sit in the circle until the fire is nothing but red and grey. You smell of smoke. Your hands are sticky with resin. You're tired, but content. Later, inside, you lie on your mat. The sound of dripping continues, but softer now. Someone's bundled a cloth under the leak, a small, simple fix. Before you drift off, someone whispers near the hearth. You can't see them, but you hear the words. Spring is a promise. Winter is a test. You think about the trench, the hoof prints, the bees. You fall asleep believing in all 3. The next morning, after the fire has been stirred and the longhouse begins to stretch and yawn, the elder announces a task that makes everyone groan at once. Pit cleaning. The waste pit, dug at the edge of the village near the woods, is exactly what it sounds like. And now that the snow is melting, it's beginning to reveal unpleasant truths. You and 4 others are handed long-handled spades, leather straps for your boots, and strips of fabric to tie over your faces. You expect the worst. It's worse. The earth is soft, the smell unforgiving. But no one complains, not allowed. Even the children know better than to joke. You take turns scraping muck into buckets and hauling them to a compost trench. You lose count after the 4th trip. Your legs ache, your throat burns, and you promise yourself a full bucket of snow to wash in afterward. Later, after everyone has scrubbed themselves raw with snow, ash and soap, there's a strange energy in the village. It's not pride exactly, but the quiet dignity of a job done well. No one celebrates pit cleaning day, but everyone remembers who showed up. In the late afternoon, a scout returns. He's breathless, carrying a bundle wrapped in deer hide. Inside, tiny green leaves, soft and tender, gathered from the south-facing slope of a far hill. The first true shoots of spring. A crowd gathers to see. Children lean in. Elders touch them reverently. One woman holds the bundle up like it's a treasure. "These," she says, "are tomorrow. Half are cooked into stew. The other half are planted in a pot by the hearth, watched over like sacred relics." You catch yourself glancing at them more than once. That night, as the wind rises and snow begins again, not heavy but persistent, you wrap yourself in your cloak and sit by the fire with a new sense of balance. The dark is still here, but so is the green. As the green shoots settle in their pot and the stew simmers over fresh embers, the evening draws long. The elder calls for a new kind of gathering, not around the central hearth, but near the river. A torchlit walk, a tradition meant to stir the land and wake whatever might still be sleeping under the ice. You walk with the others, holding a small flame in a wooden holder. Children skip ahead, chasing the light as it flickers against tree trunks and puddles. The snow crunches beneath dozens of feet, melting slightly with each step. At the riverbank, the torch flames ripple in the dark water. The elder dips her hands in the shallows and scatters pine needles across the surface. "For remembering," she says, "for growing." One by one, the villagers follow, casting herbs, seeds, or simply cupped hands into the current. When your turn comes, you bend low and whisper your name to the river. You don't know if anyone hears, but somehow you think it answers. When you return to the longhouse, the cold seems less cruel, and the night, for once, feels alive. You wake to birdsong. Not loud, not cheerful, just a few hesitant notes, as if the forest is testing its voice after months of silence. You lie still on your mat, eyes open, listening. You hadn't realized how much you missed the sound. Outside, the snow is breaking apart. In patches, the earth shows through, dark, wet, steaming slightly in the morning light. The smell is different today. Not smoke or meat or cold, but soil. Living, thawed soil. You step outside and squint against the brightness. Someone's hung wet clothes on a line, and the wind tugs at them playfully. A goat is trying to chew a sock. You gently steer it away. It resists. You insist. You win, barely. Today, the mood in the village is different. Not busy, not frantic, just forward moving. Plans are being made. Tents are being checked. Tools are laid out and inspected. Spring travel is approaching. You join a group preparing a cart. It's an old thing. Creaky wheels, one wobbly axle. But it still works. You oil the joints while others load bundles of dried food, tools and cloth. This isn't just a day trip. It's a supply run or a trade journey. You ask where they're going. Down river, one says. To the crossing. Far? Far enough. The elder assigns you to go with them. No ceremony, just your name said aloud and a nod toward the cart. You pack your cloak, a flask, a blade, and a small pouch of dried berries. The group sets off mid-morning. You walk. There's no riding here. Not enough animals, not enough luxury. The path is narrow, muddy, lined with the first wildflowers clawing through thawed mud. The sun filters through trees, still bare, but hopeful. You pass streams swollen with melt, boulders slick with moss, and trees marked with old carvings, symbols you don't know, but feel old and comforting. One resembles an eye, another a fish, another looks suspiciously like a goat. By midday, your boots are soaked, your legs sore, and your stomach empty. The group stops in a clearing. Bread is passed around. A small fire is kindled. One woman shares a laugh that sounds like it belongs in summer. After the break, you reach the river crossing. It's wide, sluggish, still half frozen in places. There's no bridge, just a narrow raft lashed together from logs and lined with rushes. You help unload the cart, then help reload it onto the raft. Then hold your breath as it floats across with two others guiding it by pole. You wait your turn, standing in the mud. The wind carries the sound of dripping ice and cracking branches. When you finally cross, you're surprised how quiet it is on the other side. There's a settlement here. Not large, maybe 5 or 6 buildings, a smokehouse, a dock. Children with wide eyes and wild hair peek from behind corners. You're greeted with polite caution, the way strangers are always greeted in places that remember hardship. The trade is quick. Dried fish for salt, cloth for carved goods, bone tools for seeds. There's no bargaining, just measuring, nodding, and exchange. You find yourself drawn to a stall of carved amulets. One catches your eye, a bird, mid-flight, wings swept back like it's diving. You pick it up. It feels warm in your hand. The man at the stall watches you, then holds out a piece of woven cord. No extra, he says. You wear it around your neck. While others negotiate, you wander toward the dock and find an old woman sitting alone, legs dangling above the water. Her hands are folded in her lap, her eyes on the current. Storms come upriver, she says when she notices you. But so does spring. You nod, unsure how to answer. She glances at your necklace. That one flies both ways. You ask what she means. She just smiles and says, "You'll know." The journey home begins at dusk. The sun sinks low, lighting the sky with gold and soot. Your group moves more slowly now, tired but satisfied. No one speaks. It's a good silence, a shared one. You sleep that night by the river, under a lean-to of bent branches and canvas. The fire is small, but it lasts. Someone plays a bone flute. A child mumbles in their sleep. The stars wheel above, careless and ancient. And you, for the first time, dream of the future. Not a far-off one, not years or decades, just tomorrow. You wake early, sore but clear. The others are still asleep, so you rise and walk a little ways upriver. The mist clings low, brushing your shins. You sit on a rock and listen. Water over stone, birds in trees, and your own breath, steady and present. You think of the longhouse, the goat, the girl with the spear, the elders' stories, and you wonder, not for the first time, whether this journey was ever about trade at all. Maybe it was about crossing, and not just the river. After breaking camp the next morning, the group sets off again, not in haste, but with a quiet determination. You walk in silence for a time, boots squelching through thawed paths, until a boy behind you asks a question in broken tone. Do you remember your home? You pause. The answer is unclear. What is home now? The place you came from? The longhouse, where you now know every crack in the wall, the trail under your feet. I think I'm building one, you answer. The boy shrugs. That's good too. As the sun climbs, you pass a field where early shoots of grass poke defiantly through the frost. A girl kneels to tie a strip of red thread around a small branch. For luck, she says, catching your look. So the spring doesn't forget us. You tie one too. Not for luck, but for memory. When you finally return to the village, the longhouse feels smaller than you remember, but warmer. You're greeted not with cheers or celebration, but with hands that help unpack, voices that ask how the trail was, nods that say, you belong. You sleep that night without your cloak. Not because the cold has left, but because something steadier has arrived. And this time, the dream that finds you does not begin with silence. It begins with song. The ground is softer now. Each morning, the snow has retreated a little farther. The paths you once trudged are muddy, slick with melt and footsteps. A new season hasn't quite arrived, but it's near enough to breathe. The trees wear a fine sheen of dew. Birds no longer sing alone. You rise earlier than usual. Not from cold, not from duty, just instinct. The longhouse is quiet. You hear the soft scuff of movement and the whistle of someone outside fetching water. A kettle clinks. You pull on your boots and cloak and step into the chill. Today is cleaning day. Not in the way you'd expect. There are no mops, no soap buckets. This is spring cleaning in its truest sense. A resetting. Fires are put out and rebuilt. Floors are swept of dust and memory. Tools are checked, repaired, or set aside. Walls are scrubbed with pine water. Everyone has a task. Yours is to clean the racks where herbs have hung all winter. You work beside the herbalist, who hums as she wipes. The roots get bitter after too long, she says. Even medicine needs rest. You scrape off old stems, sweep dried petals into a bowl, and fold new cloth linings. Every movement feels ceremonial. Like you're not just cleaning, but releasing. Later, You help whitewash the outer walls of the longhouse with a mix of chalk, water, and ash. The mixture is cool to the touch and leaves pale streaks across the wood like frost. A boy uses his fingers to draw faces in it before they dry. No one scolds him. In the afternoon, the village gathers near the edge of the forest for another ritual, the burning of winter. It's more symbolic than anything, but no less serious. A figure is assembled from straw, old cloth, and dried moss. It looks vaguely human, broad-shouldered, bowed at the neck. Everyone contributes something: a broken comb, a cracked bowl, a threadbare mitten. You add a sliver of bark you found on the journey, carved with a symbol you never learned the meaning of. The effigy is set on a pile of kindling. No one speaks. The elder lights it herself. Flames climb quickly. The straw crackles. The cloth darkens. The moss smokes. You watch as the figure curls inward, consumed. Smoke rises straight into the sky. Children toss handfuls of crushed pine into the fire, and it hisses. A girl closes her eyes and whispers something. A man drops a feather into the flame and turns away before it's gone. When the fire fades, only a circle of ash remains. The elder speaks. Winter gave us its hardest. We gave back our thanks. Now it must leave. And just like that, it's done. That evening, there's lightness. You hear laughter that isn't forced. Jokes that don't land with the thud of exhaustion. Even the goat seems more agreeable. You sit near the central fire again, warming your hands. The one-eyebrowed man approaches and sits beside you. He offers a piece of smoked fish wrapped in cloth. You stayed, he says simply. I did. Hardest part's over. You nod, then ask, what's the next hardest? He considers this, chewing slowly. Staying after staying, he says. Not because you must, but because you can. As the fire crackles between you, someone begins telling a story. It's a familiar one now. You've heard parts of it whispered in pieces. It's about the woman who planted trees after every death in her family. The trees became a forest. The forest became a refuge. One day, someone asked her why she never left. Because the roots don't, she said. You listen closely this time. Later, you find the young girl who gave you the carved bear weeks ago. She's sitting near the smokehouse, watching a pot steam. Still carrying it, she asks. You nod and pull the tiny bear from your pouch. Its surface is worn smooth from your thumb. She smiles. That means it worked. For what? You ask. She shrugs. For whatever you needed it to. That night, as you settle into your place on the mat, you hear frogs croaking outside. Not many, but enough. The sound is distant, damp, and strangely joyful. And you realize, this life no longer surprises you. It fits. The next day, you're invited to help dig new garden plots, rich soil now revealed where snow once sat heavy. You work alongside two elders and a boy barely old enough to hold the spade. The work is slow, more careful than forceful. Each handful of dirt matters. Each clump of root unearthed is shaken, studied, returned, or discarded. You learn the names of different layers. Topsoil, where the green will reach. Clay, where the roots will twist. Loam, the soft middle, the earth's memory. The boy beside you chatters without pause. He tells you which plots grew best last year, where the turnips rebelled, where the onions vanished. You nod, letting him fill the silence. At lunch, someone passes out nettle cakes. Hot, bitter, nourishing. You eat too. No one judges. The rest of the afternoon is given to storytelling. Not by the elders, but by the children. Each is invited to invent a tale and act it out in front of the fire. They don goat masks, wave wooden spoons like swords, and chase invisible trolls into the trees. You watch, laughing, clapping, feeling something unfamiliar curl in your chest. Not comfort, not joy. Home. And when the sky turns violet and the wind returns, not sharp, but gentle, you pull your cloak tight and whisper one thing to yourself before sleep. I don't want to leave. That night, long after most have gone to sleep, you step out alone. The air is cool but forgiving. The moon is bright, casting silver light across the village paths. You walk without a destination. Just a slow wander through this place you now know by feel. You pass the goat pen, the weaving shed, the ash ring where winter burned. Each corner of the village holds a memory now. Not someone else's, but yours. You pause by the edge of the trees and close your eyes. The earth beneath you is soft. The air smells of pine and turned soil. Somewhere nearby, you hear an owl. Then silence. You whisper a single word into the dark. Stay. Not a question, not a command, just a truth. And when you turn back toward the longhouse, you carry no doubt. You've already begun. The sun rises earlier now. Not by much, but enough to notice. The longhouse wakes with golden light streaking through the cracks in the walls, warming the floor before the fire even stirs. You're already awake, sitting on your mat, listening. No one moves with urgency today. The morning feels gentle, slow, like the village is exhaling after a long, clenched season. Outside, green has returned in earnest. Grasses creep up along the paths. Buds swell on tree limbs. A line of ants crosses your boot as you kneel to lace it, unbothered by your presence. You've been asked to help with the bees. You didn't know there were bees here, but now that spring has arrived, their hives, wooden boxes tucked beside the edge of the forest, need tending. You follow the beekeeper, a quiet man with long sleeves, a woven veil, and the air of someone who doesn't explain unless asked. He shows you the smoke pot, how to wave it gently to calm the hive. Don't swat, he warns. They remember. The hum is loud, alive. Dozens, hundreds of bees dancing in and out of the hive, carrying pollen from crocus and wild rosemary. You watch as he lifts the top board, revealing golden comb thick with honey. You're asked to hold the knife. You hesitate. Then you steady your hands and slice, slow and sure. collecting the cut comb in a shallow dish. It smells like flowers and sunlight. Your fingers are sticky. You don't mind. Afterward, the two of you sit near the hive and share a piece of fresh honeycomb. The beekeeper says little, only points to the sky where two bees spiral upward. "New queen soon," he murmurs. You nod, as if you understand. Back in the village, the honey is passed around. Not much, just enough for everyone to dip a finger or smear across a crust of bread. Children laugh at the sweetness. Elders close their eyes like they're tasting memory. You spend the rest of the morning carrying buckets of well water to the planting rows. The soil is thirsty. You feel it in the way it drinks, darkening immediately. A girl beside you asks if you had gardens where you came from. You pause. "Sort of," you say, "but not like this." She squints. "Were they quiet?" You laugh. "No, nothing was." In the afternoon, the weaver calls you to help mend a damaged cloak. You expect to fetch tools, but she hands you the fabric and thread. "You've earned it," she says. "Try not to ruin it." You sit with the needle and work slowly. Every stitch a meditation. The thread pulls evenly. The patch sits smooth. The cloak, once torn near the shoulder, is whole again. She inspects your work and grunts. "It'll do." It's the highest praise you've come to know. Later, you join a group walking to the lake. Not for work, not even for foraging, just walking. The water is mostly thawed, patches of ice clinging to the shady edges. Ducks paddle lazily. A heron stalks along the far bank. The others sit on logs and talk in quiet tones, of births to come, of fish returning, of what they'll plant this year. You don't speak, you listen. And for once you don't feel like an outsider absorbing foreign sounds. You feel like part of the silence between words. Someone offers you dried apple. You pass it along. A boy skips stones, counting in Old Norse. The sun sinks low, turning the lake to gold. That evening, back in the longhouse, dinner is simple. Root stew, flatbread, and a hint of honey stirred into the pot. As everyone eats, the elder announces a naming. A child born weeks ago, still tiny and swaddled, has waited through winter for this moment. Her name will be spoken tonight. Candles are lit. Stories are told. The child is lifted, kissed by 3 elders, and named with a word that means clear dawn. Everyone repeats it softly. Then again. Then once more. You say it too. It feels natural. Afterward, songs rise. Laughter follows. Someone drums on the table. Someone else plays the flute with a reed mouthpiece. You catch yourself swaying with the music, not to perform, just to be. As the night winds down, the one-eyebrowed man pulls you aside. He hands you a folded piece of fabric. You open it to reveal a new tunic. Not fancy, but well made. Soft. "For the planting," he says. "I didn't know I'd stay that long." He grins. You already have. Later, you lie beneath your blanket, listening to the soft buzz of the hive still in your ears, the baby's name still echoing in your mind, and the quiet certainty rising within you. You belong. You sleep soundly that night, so soundly in fact, that you almost miss the morning bell Not a literal bell, of course, but a series of knocks on the doorposts, passed from one hut to another like a ripple. It's planting day, the real one. First day, seeds go into the soil. The fields have been marked with stones, cords, and careful footpaths. The soil has been turned, smoothed, and prepared. Now it waits, and so do you. You're handed a leather pouch filled with seeds, small brown dry things that feel like nothing, but hold the future. Beside you, the girl who tied red thread to the branch grins and presses a hand to your shoulder. Today we feed tomorrow, she says. You crouch in rows, pressing seeds into the earth, not scattering, not dumping, one by one, each given its place, its depth, its distance. A chant begins. Low, repetitive, comforting. It carries across the field like wind. You join in, not because you know the words, but because you understand the rhythm. By midday, your back aches, your knees are soaked, your fingers are caked with mud, and yet you've never felt cleaner. Later, as you wash your hands in the stream, the water runs brown, then clear. A woman nearby looks up and smiles. You're planting more than seeds, she says. You nod, watching the ripples fade. You know, the last frost comes and goes without ceremony. No one marks the day, but everyone knows it's happened. There's a softness now, beneath your boots, in the air, in people's voices. You wake not to smoke or footsteps, but birdsong and the creak of the longhouse beams warming in the morning sun. Your eyes open slowly, not with dread or duty, but calm. You rise into a life you no longer question. Today, the elder asks you to help with the map. Not a scroll, not a parchment, a wall. On the inside of the storehouse, past the dried fish and bundled herbs, there's a section of smooth wood stained with ink, scratches, and symbols. Marks made over generations. Trails, seasons, storms. A memory too large for one voice, too fluid for a book. She hands you a brush made from pine hairs bound to bone. You remember where the melt came early, she asks. You do. You mark it. She nods. It matters. You add more. Subtle strokes near the edge of the north field. A line tracing the swollen river. A dot for the place where you found the first sprout of wild garlic. As you paint, she tells you stories of others who once held the brush. A man who mapped each wolf sighting. A woman who recorded stars. This wall, she says, remembers longer than we do. Later, you help carve new posts for the village boundary. The old ones, weathered, cracked, are honoured, not discarded. They're stacked near the elder's longhouse to be used in the fire that ends the year. Your hands are stronger now. You drive each post into the earth with confidence. No one corrects you. That afternoon, a traveller arrives. Not a trader, not a raider, just a man passing through with stories in his pack. He's greeted with bread, broth, and a space beside the fire. You listen as he speaks of other villages, strange dialects, floods, snow that reached the windows. He asks where you're from. You pause, then you gesture toward the map. Here, you say. He nods, doesn't press. Later that night, you sit beside the goat pen and scratch the ears of your old nemesis. She still tries to chew your sleeve. You let her. The stars are clear. The wind carries pollen and ash. Somewhere nearby, the sound of laughter. A girl sits beside you and offers a carved flute. You know this tune, she asks. You shake your head. I'll teach you, she says. Then you'll stay. You take the flute. You learn. And for the first time, you don't feel like a guest, learning the ways of others. You feel like a keeper of something, a thread in a much older tapestry. That night, you sleep without dreams. You don't need them anymore. The next morning, you rise before the rest and walk to the river alone. Mist rises from the water like a veil, blurring the boundary between sky and earth. You sit on a boulder and close your eyes. For the first time, you feel no ache to return anywhere. You hear footsteps, slow, soft. It's the elder. She joins you without a word. For a while, you both sit in silence. Then she speaks. You know what we call this part of the year? You shake your head. Leaf skin, she says, because everything begins to wear green again. You nod, not needing more explanation. She hands you a small pouch tied with leather cord. Inside, seeds, small, dark, hard. For your plot, she says. You blink. I have a plot? She smiles. You do now. The rest of the morning is spent preparing your space. It's not large, just a patch of ground near the far row where sun lingers and stones warm early. A boy helps you break the soil. A woman lends you her rake. The girl with the red thread offers 3 flat stones to border the edge. You plant your seeds slowly, carefully, with reverence. In the afternoon, there's a lesson in dyeing wool. You already know the basics, but today is different. Today, the colours are for celebration. A festival is coming. Not a grand one, just a day marked by music, dancing, and feasting. A celebration that winter has passed, and all who survived it deserve to feel joy. You help hang banners dyed in deep saffron, indigo, and wild green. Children wrap ribbons around the fence posts. A woman places a crown of woven vines on your head. You try to remove it. She stops you. You're part of the season now, she says. That evening, as the sun sinks low, you stand among the others in the square, lit by dozens of small fires. The drums begin, then the flutes, then the stomping feet. You join in, you don't watch, you dance, and for once, you are not remembering or learning. You are simply being. And that is enough. Later that night, after the music fades and the fires dim, you find yourself walking once more. This time, not to the forest or the stream, but to your own little patch of soil. The earth is dark there, rich, waiting. You kneel beside it, press your palm flat to the ground. It is warm. You whisper a few words, not a prayer, not quite, but something shaped like gratitude. Then you stand, brush the dirt from your hands, and look back toward the village. Windows glow, smoke curls, laughter trails off in fragments. You close your eyes. Tomorrow will come, and the next, and you will still be here, still planting, still belonging. The next morning, a gentle mist clings to the village, wrapping the rooftops in silver. The air smells of ash, moss, and something new, something green. As you wake, your hands move without thought, folding your blanket, adjusting your tunic, stepping out into the quiet. It feels like you've lived this routine forever. But today is different. The elder calls a small group together. She speaks of the growing season, of travel plans, of the shifting needs of the village. Then she gestures toward you. This one will stay, she says. This one plants deep. There's no ceremony, no feast, no banner. Just nods, small, warm nods. You're handed a polished wooden token carved with a spiral, a symbol of seasons, of continuity. Hang it by your door, she says. You don't have a door, not yet. But in your mind, you see one forming, a place that will be yours. That evening, you sit beneath a tree, the carved token warm in your hand, and listen to the bees again. Not buzzing, harmonizing, as is everything, land, wind, people, you, has fallen into tune. And you finally understand. This was never a visit. This was becoming. The fire is low now. Its crackle has softened into a whisper, and the longhouse rests in stillness. Outside, the wind hums gently through fresh leaves, brushing the roof with a rhythm older than memory. You lie still beneath your cloak, body warm, thoughts slow. The day lingers in your bones, not with weight, but with presence. The soil on your hands, the echo of the drum, the quiet gift of a carved spiral held close to your chest. There's no need to remember every moment. The village has taken care of that for you. The walls hold your footprints. The fields know your steps. The river knows your breath. You were here. You are here. And now the season turns once more. Let your breath match the rhythm of the coals. Let your shoulders soften. Let your eyes fall closed. There's nothing left to tend tonight. The work is done. The seeds are planted. The stories will wait. In the quiet, the world holds you like a lullaby. The woven walls creak softly. Wood settling into wood. Someone nearby exhales in sleep. A goat shifts in the dark and settles again. Even the wind moves gently now, as if not to disturb you. The village doesn't need your watchfulness. You have done enough. The aches in your limbs are no longer pain, just memory. The thoughts in your mind no longer pull, just float. You've earned this rest. You've earned this stillness. Sleep will find you here, slowly, kindly, like spring finding the valley, like a tide rising in the night. So rest now. We'll meet again, somewhere between the mist and the firelight. Good night. And if dreams come tonight, let them be slow and soft. Let them wander through quiet meadows, beneath birch trees and silver skies. Let them bring you the faces you've come to know. The girl with the red thread, the old man with the map, the goat with no manners. Let them carry laughter, warmth, and the steady hush of spring rain on the roof. Let nothing chase you. Let nothing call you back. Just drift. You've reached the edge of the story. Now let the quiet carry you the rest of the way.